everyone. Very sorry that we apologize for the technical issue happened just now. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today, 29 June 2020 at 9:35 West Indonesia time, we welcome you to the international webinar entitled Designing Foreign Languages Teaching to Enhance Engagement, a reflection on online learning during COVID-19 in Indonesia, held by Sekolah Tinggi Bahasa Asing Persahabatan Internasional Asia, STBA-PIA, and with me, Yeni Marlin. I'll be your host from the beginning to the end of the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 660 participants come from America, China, India, Nigeria, Egypt, Australia, Philippines, Italy, Israel, China, Taiwan, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Good evening to America participants. Very early morning to Nigeria, Egypt, Italy, and Israel participants. Good afternoon to Australia participants, and good morning to China, Taiwan, India, Philippines, and our lovely Indonesian participants who come from North Sumatra, West Sumatra, South Sumatra, Riau, Aceh, Lampung, Bengkulu, Jambi, Kepulauan Riau, Banten, Jakarta, West Java, Mid Java, East Java, West Nusa Tenggara, Bali, West Kalimantan, Mid Kalimantan, East Kalimantan, South Kalimantan, Gorontalo, North Sulawesi, Mid Sulawesi, South Sulawesi, Maluku, and Papua. Thank you all for joining us today. For your information, our participants are divided into two forums. 500 are in Zoom application forum, and the rest can join us by visiting our YouTube live streaming link provided by committee. We will email you the electric certificates and link of the webinar materials soon after the webinar is completed. And we would like to remind all participants to remain in mute or silent mode in order to make the webinar run smoothly. Thank you for your kind cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, now please allow me to proudly introduce the speakers of our webinar today. The first speaker, Head of Confucius Center, North Carolina at Charlotte, United States of America, 美国北卡罗来纳北卡大学夏洛特分校孔子学院美方院长张永林博士 Dr. Yonglingord. Okay, Dr. Yonglingord, we welcome you. Are you there?
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's evening in the US. Very nice to see everyone from all over the world. What a nice morning, afternoon, or evening.
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Gord. It's an honor for us. And then the second speaker is Director of STBA-PIA and Professor of Universitas Negeri Medan, Indonesia, Professor Dr. Berlin Sibarani, MPD. Hi, Professor. Hi, Professor. Could you please unmute your microphone?
Hi, Ibu Yeni. Hi, Dr. Gord. Nice to meet you in this webinar. And also Professor Ponder. Okay.
Okay, welcome, Professor. And the third speaker is Professor of Universitas Tadulako Palu, Sulawesi, Indonesia, Professor Kandar Manurung, DEA, PhD. Yeah, welcome, Professor. Are you there?
Yes.
Could you please unmute your microphone?
Yes, I do. Good morning, Yonglingord, and good morning, Professor Berlin Sibarani, my teacher. And good morning, everybody.
Yeah, and the first speaker will be Yantai Vocational College, Shandong Province, China, 中国山东烟台职业学院副教授徐淑贤老师。徐老师在吗？徐老师可以露脸吗？ 徐老师。Yeah, I think maybe there is some connection there. Never mind. Maybe we can continue later. We make sure the committee can contact Ms. Xu, and oh, she said that she can hear us clearly, but maybe the video is not on. We welcome Ms. Xu to the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for us that the four speakers are here with us today to share their valuable knowledge and experience. For your information, each speaker will have 15 minutes time to present their paper, and there will be 2 international languages used in this webinar. The first, second, and third speaker will deliver their presentation in English, and the fourth speaker will deliver her presentation in Chinese, in which in the end of her presentation, I'll try to give some summarize in English. After all the presentation is completed, there will be Q&A session. We welcome all participants to write your question in the chat box. So please feel free to chat your question. However, due to the time zone difference, Dr. Yongling Gord will take the first turn, and right after she has completed her presentation, the Q&A session will be conducted. Yeah, Dr. Dork, are you there with us? Yeah, so it's not too late for you later on. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now already 10:45. Is that Dr. Dork? 10:45
yes,
now in
10:45.
North. 10:45 p.m. there in North Carolina. To avoid further delay, let's welcome our first speaker, Head of Confucius Center, North Carolina at Charlotte, United States of America, Dr. Yongling Gord, to do the presentation. Okay, Dr. Gord, the time is yours.
Thank you. And I'm going to quickly share my screen so that you can see my presentation as well. Okay, so hi everyone, and then nice to see you here. Today, I'm very delighted to talk to you about some strategies of online language teaching and learning. Can you all see? So I want to talk about 3 principles. First, understand the best practice of online teaching and how it applies to language learning. Second, plan a meaningful, interactive, and balanced virtual language and cultural program. And I want to make a quick announcement here by saying that I am working in the United States and I teach Chinese language in the US in college, and I also teach high school students. So a lot of you who are teaching Chinese or English here, if you're teaching Chinese, know that my students have much lower Chinese proficiency than the students from Asia. So just keep that in mind. And finally, I will share some strategies of engaging and support students in virtual language and virtual learning of languages and cultures. So first, I want to share some features of online learners. Not everyone is born to be a good learner, and not everyone is born to be a good online learner. Online learner is usually considered to be someone who's very responsible, who's very self-organized, and then well-disciplined, who is a great risk taker, and also who has the good basic technology skills. So 2 things I want to mention here is, first of all, risk taking. Just like we're all learning new things, sometimes in a face-to-face environment with the teacher's encouragement right in front of you, students may feel more prepared. But in an online learning, not every time you have a video turned on, and then it's extremely important for the learners and the teachers to be aware that there's going to be risk, and sometimes you will lose face, but it's perfectly okay to make mistakes. So keep that in mind when you conduct any kinds of online learning. And finally, have good communication and study skills. So these are some of the best practices of teaching online. And then I found it from a website, and I made some changes based on the language teaching. So I'm going to share all of them in 2 slides, and then to let you know that what it means by teaching languages. So first of all, be present at online LMS. LMS stands for Learning Management System. And depending on what country you're in, some people use Blackboard, some people use Google Classroom, whatever you're using, make sure that you're not just posting materials there. You never be online at the learning management system. A lot of these management systems have discussion forums in which teachers and students can create posts and discussion questions. You may want to make yourself available there by answering questions in a timely manner, and also tell students maybe at each week what time of the day or what days of the week that you'll be there available. And the second thing I want to mention here is set very clear expectation to students, especially when it comes to language learning, how you're going to communicate. Do you encourage them to communicate in target language? Meaning, if you teach English, you encourage your students to write to you, talk to you in English. And also, how much time you should work as students on the course of each week. It's very important because a lot of online courses, students may think, oh, because I don't have to meet the teachers, I don't have to do any work. Or sometimes students may feel the other way. So make sure that, let's say for a 3 credit hour course, in addition to the 3 hour of live lecture, you're expected to spend another 3 to 6 hours doing homework or assignment. Just let them know. And also make sure that whatever digital materials that you use are easily accessible from learners' devices, and ask them for feedbacks early on. So online teaching, when it comes to language learning, it can be divided in 2 parts. The first part can be done in a live fashion, synchronously or asynchronously, whereas the second part, real-world communications, meaning you exchange in the target language with students and let students with each other, should happen in a classroom. So you need to make sure that online learning has 2 parts, both synchronous and asynchronous activities. And also, one thing I would like to emphasize here is a variety of large group, small group, and individual experience help you to vary the class format so that your class is not just 1 straight hour of you teacher talking or 1 straight hour of every student repeat after you. So make sure that you have a variety of class experience. And also, even though we're talking about the beginning of a course, make sure that you have a good closing and wrap up activities. So I included this slide here, and I'm going to spend about 2 minutes talking about this slide. So this is a 3-stage design of online tools for all of you, for you to conduct online course. Now remember, you do not have to use every single one of them. And some of them are have very similar functions to each other. So very quickly, Quizlet can be used for students to preview the vocabulary so that you can use the time wisely in class. For example, I teach Chinese, so I give the students Quizlet flashcards before the class, and I don't have to explain the words in English to them in class. And that PlayPosit is a very cool tool in which you can build a video quiz for students to preview before class, and then they can answer that. And the cool thing about this video quiz is that once you're done, students is done, they get the feedback right away. Let's say you have 5 quiz questions and you get all of them correct, so they'll feel confident. These 2 things, VoiceThread and also Flipgrid, VoiceThread, Flipgrid, they are very similar to each other. Both of them are online forums that students can upload videos of themselves. So those are very good tools for you to let students do their oral assignments. And then they can also have different functions of commenting on each other's forums. Google Form or any kind of other survey form gives you the chance to conduct a pre-course survey to let you know what students' interests are in each classes and also what their challenges that they are. So during class, of course, we're all using Zoom, so I'm not going to talk more about it. Kahoot, similar to Quizlet, is also a quiz tool, but it's more often used in online face-to-face teaching because it's fun, competitive, and also engaging for students. So offline, if you already have a learning management system, you do not need to utilize Facebook. But I have utilized Facebook also for some kind of informal learning when I do not have a formal learning management system. So I create a Facebook group. I talk about Padlet, Flipgrid. So Padlet is like an online writing pad for you to work together with your students on writing tasks. I highly recommend this for you if you're teaching more advanced students, but not so much if you're teaching novice students. And finally, Duolingo. I use Duolingo to learn languages myself. For example, I use Duolingo to learn Japanese. And then what I have found very interesting is that Duolingo also has a school account. So you can create a school account and then have your students all in your class. You can give them different assignments. And also because it's a ready built application itself, so you can, when you give students homework, they get feedback right away. It helps you to reduce your homework grading assignments and also give students instant feedback. So again, you do not have to use every single one of them. Pick perhaps one or two that you think will be most helpful and then utilize that in your online class. Make it more fun and also make it more interesting for your students. So, and these are some of the final evaluations. Not all final evaluations need to be a paper-based exam. These are examples where you can collect more evidence of students' learning while highlighting their language proficiency. So if your students are more open and also more, I would say, outgoing, try these teacher-student final interview or even student-student interviews. It gives them more chance. If you feel like your students may be more reserved or maybe a little more shy, or maybe their language isn't that good, like novice, have them do a learning portfolio where they can just put together their homework, their quizzes, do a written poster, or do a recorded oral presentation. So it takes the pressure off them. So these are some ideas. And also remember, we're teachers, so we're more experienced than students. Make sure that you organize the course from a student's perspective. List very clearly, how do you communicate with your instructors? What are your weekly tasks and deliverables? And what are the deadlines? These are all of them. And then you can never have enough reminders for the students. So some ideas for online language activities. Again, interpersonal speaking and presentational speaking, interpersonal and presentational writing. These are activities for you to make sure that you solicit more output from students so that they get more chance to practice. I'm not going into details, but I'm happy to take some questions later. So the third principle is engage and support students during your virtual learning of languages and cultures. So today is a good example of making sure that technology works. And sometimes it's nobody's fault that you may have technical issues, but you can certainly do some preparatory work to make sure that your students are ready to begin. Test your internet speed, connect power, make sure the Zoom recording function is checked, and so on. So you can see here, even though I am currently in North Carolina, I pretend that I'm from Shanghai. I'm talking to you from Shanghai. And I use this to bring my students to China every time I teach an online course. And at the end of the course, I use it to explain where this is and practice pinging if it's new students or if it's old students. We talk about what that city is and what are some of the famous places. So it's a good way of integrating culture with language. And also, breakout rooms is another way for me to make sure that my students get more time to talk. You can manually assign them to breakout rooms, or you can automatically, which Zoom will assign for you. Now remember, once you're in breakout room, your student cannot see you, so they may feel more comfortable to speak. And then you as a teacher, you can visit individual different rooms. You go in and out, and then you can send messages to everyone. So Zoom has this very cool function that I would suggest you to use. But remember, every time you go in and out of a breakout room, it will take about 30 seconds. So you want to make sure that your Zoom breakout room activity is a long activity, like 5 minutes or longer. Because if it's like only 3 minutes and then you waste a lot of time going in and out of, it's best to do in a large group setting. So building cohesions with students. These are some of my strategies. So before the first day of class, especially if you know this class is only online and you will never meet the students, make sure you in person, make sure you make video and text introduction so that they know each other and then they also know you. And also pay attention to the details that students share with you. I taught a 10-week online language program, and then I never met my students, but I still remember details of them. And then when we write emails to each other, I can ask how their siblings are doing, how their parents are doing, so that they feel more connected. And also, very importantly, provide immediate feedback on students' assignment. The course I taught, we meet twice a week. So usually when they submit assignment to me on Saturdays, I provide them feedback by Sunday afternoon. And then there were a few times during which time I did not provide feedback right away. And I got lots of emails like from students, did you receive my, so communicate. If you have difficulties, let's say, I'm going to be very busy, so you won't hear from me for 2 days, and make sure that they rest reassured. So earlier I talked about how do you put students in different groups. So this is a link that you can create a wheel, and then you can, every time you click it, it will pick a random person. So if you want to call out students, sometimes, for example, if we're learning numbers, I use their personal features to put them in different groups. Let's say I'll say, okay, I will put all the only children in one group. And for any of you who have one sibling, you're in a group. And then if you have 2 or more siblings, you're in another group. But again, how do I know? Because previously we have already talked about 你家有几口人,你有几个兄弟姐妹, things like that. So once you remember, it makes it more fun. And sometimes I put them in their proficiency levels. But whatever group I use, I make sure that I always vary it. So students, they do not know who they're going to be in the class every time. Make it more exciting for them.
Yes, Dr. George, it's very interesting. And I would like to tell you that we have like 5 minutes time left. And for the participant, you may chat, you may ask question for Dr. George, and you can type it in a Q&A chat box. Yeah, thank you. Please continue, Dr. George.
Of course, thank you. And the second part is incorporating culture into language classes. So again, a few of the strategies: use a virtual background, I already talked about, and find cultural meanings in target language, make comparison between target culture and one's own culture, provide instructions aligned with current events, holidays, and also encourage students to explore and make some mistakes. So I provided you some examples. So this is a virtual background from a park in Shandong province, and it's a Confucius famous saying, 有朋自远方来，不亦乐乎. So when I was teaching students that lesson, I used that as my virtual background, and I asked students, how many characters do you recognize? So they should have learned the 4 characters that I highlighted in red. Some of them recognize all 4, although most of them recognize 2 or 3. So it makes them feel accomplished that they get to recognize things that are not just textbook that are produced for them, but it's more in an authentic material. The lu is difficult because it's traditional Chinese. And then I explained that peng in ancient Chinese, simply peng already refers to 朋友. And then in modern Chinese, we use 朋友. So again, simple lessons and simple language, but we do have some cultural components in it. And then they also get to find out who Confucius is. Another example here, I'm going to just talk about who this person is. Her name is Li Na. she's a Chinese tennis player. And then we had a mini lesson on who Li Na is, followed by a quiz. So during the lesson, we learned about her biographic information, including her family, which they have learned, her hometown, which they have not learned, and then also her job. So these are, again, beginning level content, but also making sure that we're not just talking about a random person, we're talking about famous Chinese people for them to know. And the reason why I chose Li Na, because at that time, her hometown, Wuhan, was hit very bad by COVID-19. I want to make sure that students are aware Wuhan is not just a scary city that's known for its virus. It's a beautiful city that has produced many good, fun places to see, good food to eat, and also famous people. And so students, once they finish the class, they get to research on their own what the city of Wuhan is like. Finally, I want to share 2 short slides. One is, in addition to your textbook, find some authentic materials to enrich your courses. By authentic materials, I mean that it's produced by native speakers. So in my case, I find materials in Chinese, produced by Chinese people, and also for Chinese people, not just for Americans. And then these are some of the examples. Finally, these are some of the challenges that the students are going to have in online language learning. Not knowing how to learn Chinese, because Chinese grammar is very different from English as far as the 这, 了, 过, and also as far as like 量词, measure words. So tell them these are things that, and also make sure that you reduce their anxiety of fear. So my way of reducing their anxiety of fear includes humility, helpfulness, and humor. Humility means that I talk to them and let them know that I'm a language learner myself. That's how I learned English, by making mistakes and making personal connection with them. Helpfulness means that by being present online, which I have talked about. And finally, a sense of humor. Whenever there's a mistake that's made, don't make it hard on the students. Just let them know that it's perfectly okay, and sometimes share some mistakes that I made in learning English. So again, humility, helpfulness, and humor. The 3H will help you reduce your students' anxiety and overcome some of their challenges. So that's all. And this is my email address. Please feel free to email me with additional questions. And I'm very glad that I get the chance to talk with you today. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yongling Gorg. It's very interesting and excellent presentation. I think that we gained a lot of knowledge today. And now let us have the Q&A session for Dr. Gorg. Maybe Dr. Gorg, you can see the chat box, the Q&A chat box right there. Can you?
I was sharing my screen, so I couldn't yet, but let me unshare my screen so that I can
all
see
right,
it.
All right.
Hang on.
Come on.
Stop sharing.
Okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. Can you?
The chat.
The chat box, the Q&A.
Oh, Q&A. Sorry, I was seeing.
Oh,
chat.
you can. Yeah, it's the Q&A chat box, and then you may pick 1 or 2 questions to answer.
Sure. Let me see. Okay, so there's the first question about is play a free account enough for 1 classroom? Yeah. So all of those tools that I have used, there are free versions and paid versions. I want to let you know that I have not spent anything myself to use those tools. It's
excuse me, Dr. Gorg. Maybe which one you choose? I mean, you can read out the question,
sure.
maybe, or I will read out for you, or because it's a lot of question and
right. Okay, so it's the third question.
The third one, how to encourage your student who is talkless to be a risk-taker one? Is that the one?
It's not the one, but I'm happy to address it. I'm happy to address it too. So I've had students who are very shy, and then I just don't call them in a large group, like in front of everyone to begin with. I would assign them to small groups, and then people who have similar proficiency levels, and then I use the breakout function to do that. And then in smaller groups, I would try to first encourage that student to talk a little bit in a smaller group before he or she become more comfortable in the large group. And also, for example, learning language has two parts, the written part and the oral part. If you feel like a student may be a better communicator in writing, there are also other ways for you to assess she understands instead of just trying to keep calling that person. So two things. First of all, start with small groups. And secondly, if you feel like, because the reason why you need to let student talk is you need to make sure that she understands. If you can find out she understands by other ways, then you don't necessarily need to always ask that person to talk. And also make sure that you can you provide yourself outside class if because sometimes students may feel more comfortable talking to you one-on-one.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doc. And then the question that you want to answer just now, which one you say the third? Is it from Budi, Mr. Budi Kurniawan?
Yeah. So.
Oh yes, Mr. Budi Kurniawan is asking, is PlayPosit fee account enough for one classroom, around 25 students, or do you recommend using paid account? Thank you.
Yeah, so I was saying that for all of those tools that I have introduced, I've always only used the free ones. Of course, it's if you have the money, you're certainly welcome to use it. For PlayPosit, the free account is limited, but you just give students the link, and then once they know what they're learning, like shortcomings are, then you can take it off, keep deleting it. Another example I wanted to say is that Padlet. For example, a free Padlet account only gives you three pads. It's very small, but for one semester, like I have one midterm project and one final project, and then like the entire midterm project, because the pad can be as long as, or you can have as many people. And once the semester is done, I ask students to take any photos and or take screenshots, and I just delete it. But of course, I think if you have the resource, paid account would be better. But I don't necessarily say you have to have a paid account.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gork. Maybe would you like to pick one more question?
Sure.
Before we finish the session?
Sure.
You can choose the most typical one, so that all the participants can, the typical one.
Sure. Well, I find this question very interesting. It says, I still cannot get the connection on how social media like Facebook can help students in learning a language. Maybe you can explain a little bit more. I want to explain that for social media, you're not limited just to use Facebook. You can use Instagram. You can use WeChat. I actually also use WeChat in my Chinese teaching. So two ways of how you can use social media. First is you on social media, you can connect your students with each other and also with the people from that target culture. So that, for example, if you use WeChat, I encourage my students to get WeChat and then make friends with Chinese students on campus. And then they can start instant messaging on WeChat. So that's an example of instant messaging. Another example is about the social media content. It's not really like you send me a text and I send you a text. For example, Twitter and then Instagram and also Facebook, they all have a lot of content. And sometimes you look for the content. Of course, I don't tell the students, go on Facebook and learn Chinese. I usually would find materials on Facebook that I find are good Chinese content and then share with them so that they make it more meaningful. What I have referred to in the PowerPoint is that I created a Facebook group for my students as a discussion forum outside class. And that's what I mean by Facebook in the PowerPoint. So to summarize, you can use social media to do instant messaging in both languages, your own language and also target language. You can carefully select social media content because usually it's very rich in contemporary culture to share with your students. And then some of the social media like Facebook, like WhatsApp, allow you to create a group for you, for students to be able to communicate in addition to email.
Thank you, Dr. Gork. Maybe there is one more last question. For the Chinese teacher, especially when doing online teaching. Maybe like you say just now, there are the spoken one and the written ones. What about the written one? Because like how to do the dictation and then how to train the writing Chinese character, because it's very different from like English. It's like ABC. For Chinese character, you need to know which one comes first. And during the online teaching, do you have any suggestion for us, for the teachers, Chinese teacher, to train the students for the Chinese writing?
Sure. I wanted to show you, hang on, let me stop. I wanted to show you a very useful website, which is what I use for teaching, for teaching Chinese characters. Okay, let's just find a character. Let's say Zhao. I know I'm not sharing yet, but once I do, hang on. What's going on here? Oh, all right. Here it is.
Have you done the screen sharing, Dr. Gork?
Doing it now. So this is the website, and again, it's free. I'm a big advocate for using free. So you can download all of these images. For example, you can download, you can save the image as a, for example, as a GIF, the GIF file. So once you save as a GIF file, it will show all the stroke orders, and then you incorporate that into your PPT. So again, I did not create this website, other people did. So it's, I find it to be very helpful in teaching them stroke orders. And again, I think there's one question I'd like to address. It says, how can you prevent students from cheating? So in America, we have, we use Canvas as our learning management system. So there's a built-in function called quiz. And when you design a quiz, when students do that, the screen, there is a function of screen locking. So it can, when students are in Canvas doing the quiz, their browser is locked. They cannot, for example, do Google Translate. But this is not perfect. Why? Because they may be able to use a phone, and you really cannot 100% eliminate cheating. And I wish I have the magic answer. So what do? Two things. First, I make those quizzes that have standard answers to be very low stake. For example, quiz used to count 20%. I reduce it to 10%. So students, they feel like, well, I don't need to cheat as much. And then I make sure the stake gets lower, the percentage gets lower. But I raise some of the other assessments, like homework, like final presentations, in which everyone, they need to come up with their own content. I make that higher. So again, students, they don't need to cheat. They have to So that's, so I just want to say it's impossible. Don't worry about it if you, you just cannot do that. Yeah, I think that's, that's my very honest answer.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gurk. It's a very detailed answer, and I think that the participant is okay with the answer. And now the time is like 11:15 there. 11,
yeah, it's about 11:15
p.m. there. Dr. Gurk, thank you for here with us, and maybe you can have a good rest soon. And for the participants, let us go on the second speaker. Prof. Berlin, are you there?
Thank you so much. And
thank you, Dr. Gurk.
Please feel free to share my email address with people, so I'm happy to answer additional questions via email. My PowerPoint is sent to Dr. Berlin, so you will have my email address.
Yeah, and then we'll send the webinar material at the end of this session, so every participant can have your email too later on.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.
Have a good day.
Yeah, have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now let us go on to the second speaker. Please welcome Director of STBA-PIA and Professor of Universitas Negeri Medan, Indonesia, Professor Dr. Berlin Sibarani, MPD. Professor, we welcome you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Yeni. Let me share my PPT first.
Maybe Prof, you can turn on the video.
Okay, turn on the video. Is it okay now?
It's start sharing. I mean your video.
Okay,
so that people can see you.
Okay, just a few minutes. There must be something wrong with this computer.
Oh.
Something like hang. Can you send somebody to help me?
Oh yeah, okay. Mr. Rizky will go to your room.
Okay, this must be something wrong with the computer.
Okay, it's okay now, I guess.
What do you mean by okay?
Now we can see you now.
Yes.
We can see you now.
But the PowerPoint is not okay here anymore.
Oh.
Ini kenapa muter-muter nih? Nge-lag ya? Gara-gara apa dia nge-lag?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, while waiting for the Prof. Berlin to settle with the computer, maybe Ms. Betaria, you may send the email of Dr. Gorok to the forum so that if they want to ask questions, maybe they can continue. Thank you, Ms. Beta. Yeah. Yes, Professor Berlin, are you there with us? I think there are some connection problem here. Dr. Berlin here is leaving the meeting. Maybe he will be back after a while. To make use of the time, maybe we can just go on with the third speaker first. Professor of Universitas Tadulako Palu, Sulawesi, Indonesia, Prof. Kandar Manurung, DEA, PhD. Prof. Kandar, are you there? Yes, Prof. Kandar, maybe you can unmute. Yeah, you can unmute. Yeah, okay. Prof. Kandar, the time is yours. You may start your presentation. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Yeni, and good morning, everybody from Palu. Thank you very much for the opportunity that is given to me to be the member of this webinar. And let me share my PowerPoint first. Right. I will talk a little bit about the practice of doing online learning in Palu, and we will share the reflection that I have written down in my PowerPoint presentation. And the outline of my presentation will be as follows. First, we will talk about the introduction, and then face-to-face learning, and then blended learning, and online learning during COVID-19 in Palu. Let's begin with the first, the introduction. When we talk nowadays, particularly in this difficult and complicated situation in foreign language teaching, it is better to talk a little bit about how this sophisticated technology involved in the foreign language teaching. So in the very beginning of the teaching learning process, when a face-to-face is practiced, and then come up to blended learning where the face-to-face instructions and online learning is blended together to help learners to understand better the foreign language. And then after that, we come into fully online learning, particularly in special situation as what we are facing now in the disease and the COVID-19, and in some particular circumstances where abnormal learning system is implemented, such like a natural disaster or something that prohibited people or teacher or schools to provide a face-to-face teaching. And then the next one is when you talk about face-to-face, is it's sometimes people say that mostly textbook driven and then teacher centered and then old fashioned. But in fact, this is true because when we are facing the teacher centered learning, activities are mostly dominated by the teachers. So in this case, people or learners are sometimes not quite interested in it because seems like the classroom is dominated by the teachers. And then it is always said that it is old-fashioned. And then in the next development of this teaching is moving from face-to-face into blended learning. And then in the blended learning, we use both face-to-face and the involvement of the ICT's development, particularly as a supplementary tools to add or to motivate learners to learn. But then when we try to find out some of the results of the research, But in general, it is stated that students are equally satisfied by using both face-to-face and online learning. So it seems the findings of the research says that people or learners are also interested both in the face-to-face and in online learning. But the reason actually why students prefer to face-to-face learning to online learning, because first of all, the students gain better understanding in a classroom context. And then students get more opportunities for interactions, clarification, and explanation. And the last is also the lesson were more enjoyable. So based on the research that we have so far, particularly in the combination of these two traditional or conventional teaching and modern teaching, are not actually uh, having a better opinion for the online learning. Then the next finding is online learning. When online learning started and the implementations of first self-access center, where learners are studying individually by both using materials that have been previously prepared and the involvement of ICTs, and then next come up into the inventions of graphical web browser software, and then come into a more sophisticated technology where computer assisted language learning are introduced, and then next hybrid learning, and then now we come into web-based online instructions. So it's full. And then if you see what have been important in the implementations of this online learning is that it is noted down that foreign language teachers actually have not been fully using the educational technology so far. So it's a kind of challenge on why sometimes it is noted that this online learning is not that effective. And then the need of the in-house pedagogical materials developed. It is also noted that when we conduct this kind of online learning, it is a kind of forced that we have to use it. So that's a good, a kind of modern fashion, modern mode. But in fact, we haven't been able, or is rarely available materials that can be presented in e-learning form or in easily accessible online and so on. And then in fact, some learners and teachers also are still not getting familiar with this social media. So what is important here is that in our experiences, we have to be both teachers and learners to be ICT's literacy. And the last one, why actually this online learning is famous and that you have to use it, because in some case, as I said in the beginning, in the introduction, that foreign language teaching can be also held in abnormal learning system, where, for example, this kind of situation all over the world, even though some of our students who are not able to access easily any platform that is used, but they have to fulfill all of the assignment, all of the duties that have been prepared and assigned by lecturers, instructors, or teachers. And in another occasion, like what we have around 2 years ago, we have tsunami, we have liquefaction, and we have earthquake, but the teaching is still going on, and in some countries as well, as in Thailand, in Japan, and in Malaysia. So it's a must. So then, what have been practiced, for example, in Central Sulawesi, it has been stated by previous speakers, then we try to combine synchronous and asynchronous teaching so that it can cope with difficulties of the learners in particular area as a good information for us nowadays in all over the world that it's now known that not all areas, particularly remote areas, can be joining the class due to the fact that they can't access the internet. They don't have any access platform that are used. So both the combination of synchronous and asynchronous will be very helpful. And then the next one is what we have practiced in Palu actually is that we try to adapt what has been stated in the guideline. First, we see or we consider what goals are needed or what will have to be achieved by the learners, and then what will be integrated during the teaching and learning. And then we have to understand that nothing is simple during this time, particularly in the implementation of this online learning. So everyone, both learners and teachers or lecturers, have to understand that nothing is simple for the time being, nothing is complicated, nothing is complex, but we have to know all. And then what is the next important part here is that you have to provide necessary supports. So what is needed by learners, what is needed by teachers? We will talk about it in the next slide. And then we involve students in the decisions. For example, the previous speakers has also noted down that needs of learners, particularly in the platforms, in the online system that we have to adapt, we have to negotiate with the learners because they are learners. They have to learn something. It's not the teacher. The teacher is only a kind of a facilitator. They provide materials and so on. So the decision can also be taken by the learners. So what's next? If we can see this slide, here we are now in Palu, for example, and then we have about 10 districts and one city in Central Sulawesi, where almost all of the students come from this different area. But what is the problem is in particular area here, for example, in some places in this district, there are sometimes absence of the electricity, the power shut, and then the internet access is not there, is not accessible. And then we also found out that in almost all these districts, they are not able to access an internet. Okay. One of the participants were asking in the chat, Q&A chat, to previous speakers about that. And then we will see in Palu it happens because it is quite difficult for them to access internet in the area where they are living. So what is the implications of this kind of problem? We'll see here first. Then what we did here is we tried to provide them with technical such like tools and reliable internet connection. For example, what has been done by our campus, we tried to provide a better bandwidth so that people can access or learners can access the materials easily. And then what we also have made is that people or students, learners, teachers or lecturers are also trained. And then next, we try to have the resources available, accessible, and authentic. Now, here, when we talk about the authenticity, is we try to combine both what have been easily found through URL or website, and then we try also to develop materials based on the situation of the students in Palu or in Central Sulawesi. And then when we deal with the learners, and that we try to motivate learners, and then we have to say that they have to be able to be an independent learners or autonomous learners, because in this kind of situation where you have synchronous and asynchronous, that they have to be able to manage their own time and they have to be able also to get used of the gadget or whatever they can use to access the materials, the instructional materials. And then we also have to have teachers, educators, lecturers have to be active, to be creative, and to be innovative. And one of the most important part also is that they have to be ICT's literacy, because if this is the case, then the teaching and learning process online cannot be done. And then institutional management, they have to provide facilities, particularly in-house training. So here we in Palu, with what the dean and the leader of a university facilitate the in-house training to use this kind of technologies. Okay, and then if we see, for example, the problems that we have faced based on the data that we have faced, for example, in relation to the internet connection, as what has been asked by Sri Ati Usman probably to the previous speaker. First, look, the data from the real data from our students say that, maaf sir, jaringan saya jelek. Dan banyak teman-teman yang jaringannya tidak bagus.
Prof. Kandar, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Prof. Kandar, your time is 5 minutes left, but can you please make your screen full screen? It's requested by the participant.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that they can see it clearly. I'm sorry to cut off.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So they said banyak teman-teman yang jaringannya tidak bagus dan akhirnya kami lambat mengirim tugas. So they always have a bad internet connection. So it caused them also to submit their assignment on time. So based on the data that we have, almost all of the students submit their assignment after due time, the limit of the time. And then based on our interview, one of the students say, I only rely on Wi-Fi. When the light is off, it's enough to make me worried. As you know, for your information here, sometimes in some remote areas, the electricity is not stable. So this is also a problem. And then the next, the interview also say the internet connection is bad, either at my home or on campus. So these all are very important for us as a provider, as teachers, to consider. And then next, when we assign the platform or particular platform during the online learning, this also faced by the students, internet data packages or networks problems. So let's say, for example, nowadays, Zoom is very famous. Almost all of the lecturers, almost all of the providers of the webinar use this Zoom. But then the students feel too complicated and too difficult due to the fact that they don't have enough internet data packages, because they have to spend money for it. And then when we interview the students about it, they say, I think it's not bad, but not good too, because in my experience, this method makes some of us can join in that virtual class because they have no data or credit phone. So these are also a kind of things that we have to consider, because in this online learning system, what is the most important part is that the learners have the time to study. And then in the University of Tadulako, then they have a kind of UKT cut. So the institutional fee is cut down to help the students to enable them to buy some internet data packages. And then Another interview stated the problem is usually the instructions of assignment given in the online class is not clear. Now, what is important here, I'm delighted to share the idea of the previous speakers saying that the materials can also be actually used in a very simple language or probably in the native language of the learners. Because in a long distance learning system or long distance learning mode, they also use this kind of bilingual materials, or particularly in the instructions. And then the last interview said that I need time to understand the materials. It's enough that materials, if it is only taken or downloaded from the internet or taken from the textbook and then give it to the provider systems at the university, then it will be quite difficult for learners to understand the language. So what is the implication here? Due to the problems that we have faced, I expect that particularly in the area, in the district that we have faced in Central Sulawesi, and I believe some other countries also face the same case, that there must be networking among campus leaders and local government and the community to provide a better internet connection and power supply. And then there must be willingness training for both even learners and teachers, particularly the teachers, because not all teachers are ICT literate. So they have to be trained. And then instruction material must be needs-based, goal-based, so that it can be, the students can be motivated to learn, because it is really meet what they need in their learning environment. And then the learners, of course, must be trained to be autonomous, and then they have to be able to use ICTs or any gadget that they can use. And then one of the most important part, I think, availability of accessible internet or platform.
Okay, Dr. Prof. Konder, sorry, your time is up, but we have 1 more minute time to give some summarize. Thank you, Prof. Konder.
So the most important part here in this, how to do this so that foreign language teaching is enhancing the learners' first, we see they have to be instruction or learners based. Instruction material must be authentic, simple language, and the method must be the combination of synchronous and asynchronous. And then the media must be learners friendly platform. This is very important. And then the last one is the clear instructions for the evaluation. Okay, I think that's it. Terima kasih, thank you, and cheers.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Konder, for the excellent presentation. In the Q&A box, we see that can you see this, Prof. Konder? There's question from Mr. Afar Tahir. Maybe I can read out for you. Good morning from here, sir. I want to ask about the appropriate evaluation or assessment for blended learning. Should we blend some aspect of students' achievement as well, since we still have curriculum SNDT evaluation on the go? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the questions. Okay, the kind of evaluation, what is important here is that in the KKNE or IQF curriculum that have been implemented for secondary schools from 2012, 2013, and then the university level higher education is about 2015. The evaluation actually is output based. So when the instructional goals is stated in this kind of curriculum, then we need to develop, you have to design the evaluation, the instrument that can be actually used to measure what have been stated as the goal in KKNA. So when we talk about IQN, so the evaluation is also based on that goals, so that not only the output, not only the outcome, but the output is also seen. For example, when we talk about the kind of evaluation, then if it is a foreign language, that makes sure if you are talking about the language component, then you should design the evaluation based on those instructional objectives. The same case applies to the language skills. That's, I think, the answer for that.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Kander. Yeah, I'm sorry that I forgot that we will have the Q&A session after all the presentation. Just now we did it once for Dr. Gore because of the time zone difference. So just now one question and maybe another question for the participant. You can just type it there. We will have the Q&A session after Professor Berlin and then Ms. Xu finish the presentation. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
thank you, Prof. Kander, for the presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, now please welcome the director of STBA-PIA and Professor of Universitas Negeri Medan, Indonesia, Professor Dr. Berlin Sibarani, MPD, to do the presentation. We welcome you, Professor Berlin.
Thank you, Bu Yeni. Let me share my screen first. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Very clearly.
Very clearly. Okay, can I start now? Can I start now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your time is
thank you.
yours, Professor.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Well, the honorable all participants, I would like to talk about the one subtopic of the theme, that is enhancing cognitive engagement through task and materials development in online learning. Let me begin this discussion from these 3 points, 3 things. First, I would like to peruse, I would like to review the theory for a very short time. And then we are going to see some facts happen during the COVID-19 in online learning. And based on point 1 and point 2, I would like to make some reflections on what we are going to do next in the next semester if the online learning still go on. Let me begin from talking about natures of engagement. The first question is about the definitions of engagement. What is it and how do we know that students engage? Okay, then I will go on to the classifications of engagement. Engagement can be divided into 2, observable and internal. Observable engagement can belong to academic and behavioral, while internal engagement can be divided into cognitive and affective engagement. What I mean by, what is meant by observable is you can see, you can watch some indicators, some behavior that belongs to academic engagements or behavioral engagement. Academic engagement, for example, will result in a different performance from behavioral engagement. While internal engagement, this is the psychological state that you cannot see directly. This includes cognitive and affective engagement. Academic engagement, how do we know that a student is engaged academically? So one student who is academically engaged usually will spend time on task longer, longer than those who are not engaged academically. Students who is engaged in academic will complete homework probably better than those who is not engaged. And students who is engaged academically will get some credits better than those who is not engaged. So these three components belongs to the indicators of academic engagement. While behavioral engagement includes attendance, participation, preparations for class. So students may attend the class without having any absence and very diligent to attend the class. Participations, when there is a discussion, this student will participate actively and also prepare everything related to the lesson that he's going to attend. So this belongs to behavioral engagement. Well, if you look at this picture, there are 5 students here. I think you will agree with me that the girl raising her hand should be an engaged student. Why? Because he participates in the discussions. And you can look at the second boy or a girl does not pay any attention to what is going on in the classroom. So this is one example of behavioral engagement. You look at the boy to the left. He is still engaged, but does not participate in the discussions. Now, let's try to define what is meant by cognitive engagement. Cognitive engagement is a psychological state in which students persist studying over a long time. So, one indicator of engagement is persistence in studying. No distractions, no boredom, but interested all the time, a long time. So time is an indicator of cognitive engagements and also persistence. And this is, of course, unobservable. They are just, this construct may be seen from the indicators like participating in the discussions, completions of the work, and so on. Well, when we look at cognitive engagement, as a matter of fact, it is a longitudinal construct. The lowest level of engagement, cognitive engagement, is willing to do tasks. So when a student is willing to do a task, well, he's engaged to the lowest level, of course. But again, moving to a higher level of cognitive engagement is something like self-initiated doing task. So these students will do the task whether he is assigned or not assigned by his teacher. So doing a task that he thinks will develop, will make his ability better. So when this cognitive engagement grow, develop to the very advanced, this will lead the students to be autonomous learner. So as a matter of fact, cognitive engagement is very important in education, is very important in teaching. In my opinion, cognitive engagement might be not only a means to an end, but it is also an end in itself. What I mean is that achievement will be better if you have high cognitive engagement. You will succeed in life if you are autonomous learner. You can learn everything by your own way, by your own style, and with your own initiation. So I think education will make this as a final, as an ultimate goal of teaching, not just only for the engagement itself. Okay. Now, cognitive engagement, how do we know? Let's start from the first, willing and able to do the task. So when we find a student who is not willing to do the task, it means that he's not engaged, and also can be evaluated from the time allocated, the amount of the time, and also from the persistency. So that's the indicators. So by looking at these 2 points, we can say that this student is engaged or not engaged. And we can also say at the same time, how engaged is the student. When the students can set the goal for himself, can regulate himself in studying, in doing the task, then he moves to a higher level of cognitive engagement. Self-initiated information seeking, value and relevance of school works are also higher levels of engagement, cognitive engagement. The third types of engagement is affective engagement. So when a student is engaged affectively, these students will always feel longing back to school, just like what we sometimes listens from watching in the television, that there are many students who are longing for going back to school. We do not know for sure whether longing going back to school is an indicator of cognitive achievement or not. But these kinds of longing, looking forward to, longing to go to the school is a kind of engagement, which we call here effective engagement. School connectedness. A student who is engaged effectively will always get in touch with his school, will always get in touch with his peers and with his teachers. Now, the relationship among the four kinds of engagement, I think, this is a quote from Rasley, I think cognitive engagement should be the core, should be the ultimate kind of engagement that we are trying to find. And the second layer is affective engagement, which belongs to internal and observable, while behavioral engagement and academic engagements are something which can be observed, but they are interrelated to each other. So when one is cognitively engaged, probably it will be shown in his behavioral engagement and also in his academic engagement. So when we move from the back to front, we can fix cognitive engagements by handling the student's problem in academic achievement and behavioral engagement. Okay, now let me go to this part.
Okay, Professor Berlin,
yes.
Excuse me, you have 5 minutes time left.
Okay, let me speed it up.
Yeah.
What do research says? A student who is able, who has more knowledge, tends to be more engaged. Students who is more able will perceive ability and feel something like self-efficacy. Well, I don't think I can read this all. There are nine research findings that I quote saying that engagement is very important. To summarize the result of all these researches, what makes people engage? The first is task or questions. So the task of the question should be E+1. It should not be very difficult, and it's not be very easy. It should be valuable, worthy, interesting, meaningful, authentic, and so on. So what makes people engage is task or questions. What makes people engage is self-efficacy. So if you can teach the students and make them believe that they can do it, that will make them engage too. The teaching materials. So if you provide some materials in your teaching, don't just say unrelated facts, but you say interrelated concepts and so on. Teaching techniques should be facilitating better understanding. Now, let me show you an example. This is a text. Pak Badu's hobby is fishing. Almost every Sunday, he went fishing. He fishes in a river at Desa Kemayu. One day, as usual, he went fishing, and after finishing fishing, he went home bringing a lot of fishes. This is kind of questions, something like a reading comprehension question. What is Pak Badu's hobby? On what day does he go fishing? So question 1 and question 2 can be categorized as not engaging. You cannot engage your students by providing tasks like point 1 and point 2. Why? Because it does not require any critical thinking. But look at question number 3 and number 4. Has he ever been absent going fishing? Well, these questions will challenge his critical thinking, challenge his carefulness in reading the text, and this will be engaging. Can you mention a name of fish he might have caught? This is also engaging. Why? Because it requires critical thinking. Okay. This is behavioral engagement. In behavioral engagement, there is attendances, behavior incidents, participation. This can be fixed in order to make better cognitive engagement, in order to make learning achievement better. Now look at what is going on during online teaching. In online teaching, before the COVID-19, we have teaching like face-to-face interactions. We have eye contact, we have body language, we have probing questions, individual scaffolding, dynamic feedback, dynamic interactions. We have all of them. These are the tools for us to increase the students' engagement that we do not have anymore in online learning, or probably if we have less than when we have it in face-to-face. So this will be the problem. We know what cognitive engagement is and what makes people engage, but because the teaching is online now, we find it a little bit more difficult to raise the cognitive engagement. Why? Because in online learning, we have less control. Behavioral engagement, we can control it more directly, like what we do in face-to-face. Attendance also, behavioral incidents and participation. Sometimes we can speak in front of our computer monitor, but we cannot see whether they attend, whether they pay attention or not. So how do we do that? What should we do? We can fix the cognitive engagement by improving the task, instructions and materials. So because these things cannot be fixed anymore because we are now online, so we can do it by improving the task and instructional material. Now, online learning.
Yeah, excuse me, Professor. Actually, your time is up, but we'll give some time, like 1 or 2 minutes to do the summarize.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Online learning, learner, in classroom learner, there is something like a losing psychological effect. In classroom learner, you can feel being watched. The students feel being watched, so they have to be engaged in the lessons. The students feel like being watched while working with their task. And this also can help the teachers to make the learners engage. Online learners, they feel something like free from being watched and free from assessment. The teacher can only assess unfinished work only. They cannot assess while doing the work. Classroom teachers talk to students in person. So there is a very intensive personal interrelations in classroom by the classroom teachers. So the classroom teachers can get instant response to his talking. But online teachers, it were like talking to nobody. So assessment also only unfinished work only. So what then? When we try to compare what is going on in online teaching and face-to-face, and also we understand what is meant by engagement. And I think this is something like a concluding remarks that the advantages of classroom interaction should be able to be replaced. We can replace by maximum operations of the platform features. Psychological disadvantages like feeling like talking to nobody else in online learning, it's just a matter of time. Once we get accustomed to this mode, the disadvantages will disappear. Number 3, coherence between challenging task development and learning objectives, teaching materials, and teaching techniques enhances cognitive engagement in offline and online learning. I think this is what I think that's all I can present, but because of the time limitation, so I say thank you. Hello, Bu Yeni.
Yes, sorry, wait.
Ternyata 15 menit. Ternyata 15 menit.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you for the nice presentation. It's very interesting. And now we will continue to the next speaker, our last speaker from Yantai Vocational Shandong Province, China. 中国山东烟台职业学院副教授徐树贤老师，徐老师在吗？
在呀。
可以听到您的声音，能不能露点儿？对。徐老师在吗？徐老师 ，Miss Xu, are you there? Are you still there with us? We can hardly hear you.
我已经露脸了，能听到吗？
能听到你的声音，但就是没办法露脸啊。您的声音断断续续的。Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize that there might be some problem, some connection problem in China. But Miss Xu is trying to share the material. She can do the share screen, but we still cannot hear her voice. 徐老师在吗？ 徐老师你好，在吗？能听到我的声音吗？露脸了，看到了，看到了。你可以开始说话，徐老师。可以听到我没听到您的声音，徐老师。
正在说话。
哦，正在说话。OK，现在。
我一直在说话哈，我能听到你们的声音。但是我这里说的话你们可能听不到，是吗？
现在可以了，现在可以了。
好，那现在怎么办呢？我开始讲吗？
可以开始讲了。
好，
OK。
那网络既然这么不好哈，我就把长话变成短说哈。刚才我也看到其他几位老师也讲到了线上教学存在的问题，那我在这里呢就一切从简啊。我这里呢主要是对自己在这3个月的时间里做的线上直播教学做了一个总结。截止到6月20号，全球有191个国家，大约有15亿学生，不能上学，191个国家关闭了学校。那在这种情况下，疫情期线上教学成为全世界的唯一选择。那我这里呢总结的内容主要是3部分。第一是线上教学的利弊，第二是我的应对方法，第三提出几点建议。首先看线上教学的利弊。线上教学呢，它的优势大家都感受得很明显。第一是它突破了地域限制，一部手机、一台电脑就可以把老师和学生连接起来，我们就可以跨地域、跨国家、跨地区的建立我们的线上课堂。第二是它丰富了学生的学习方式。从前同学要走出家门到教室里去听课，如今在家里就可以进行线上学习，而且线上学习我们发现网上资源也很丰富。同学们呢，自律性强的同学通过这种方式，也会收到很好的学习效果。第三是它丰富了教师的教学方式。那线上教学对于老师来说，它是一场挑战，尤其是现场的直播教学，对老师的综合素质提出了更高的要求。那像这一次亚运，我们全体中国老师也加入了这场线上的课堂。那在亚运使用 Zoom 软件的过程当中，我们也经历了一些变化，那都促使我们努力快速的学习。前期在3月份使用 Zoom， 从5月份以后我们又使用 Live Meeting， 因为 Zoom 在用的时候经常出现网络卡顿的问题，今天就出现这种情况。那所以呢，这些变化都使得我们要快速的学习，而且要快速的掌握它，保证教学的顺利进行。所以这个过程当中，它不仅是提高了老师的教学技能，促进老师快速成长，也丰富了老师的教学方式。第二个呢，谈一下线上教学存在的问题。第一个
卡住了，又卡住了。
4是久用电脑会影响身体健康。 那我在上课的时候，
喂，徐老师你好。
我好，我在呀。
啊，在 ，OK。
啊，好。
喂，徐老师，能听到我的声音吗？喂，徐老师。徐老师，在吗？徐老师，徐老师，喂，喂，徐老师，你好，徐老师。Okay, I think that Miss Xu has some connection problem in China, but don't worry, participants, stay tuned there because we have do some prevention for this. We have do some rehearsal. Yeah, there's a connection problem again. So actually, Miss Xu has sent her presentation to us, the video, so we can play the video now. We play the video now so that you can still hear Miss Xu voice and also her face. Okay, right, stay tuned. I'll try to share the screen for this. Maybe you can type personally Miss Xu for the connection problem so that she knew that we stop the sharing here and we'll do the another sharing showing the video of her presentation. Okay, can everybody see the video? 我。
听老师上课。那另外呢，很多的教学像现在我建议，首先谈线上教学的利弊。先说优势，线上教学，几个优势很明显啊，我这里谈到3点。第一点呢是，线上教学它可以突破地域的限制，一台手机、一部电脑就可以把老师和学生连接起来，跨越国家、跨越地区，随时随地进行。像现在我在中国，大家在印尼，我们就可以在网上实现交流，实现教学。那第二个呢，是丰富了学生的学习方式。那大家也有体会，除了传统的教学，传统的学习方式，现在你不出家门就可以在家里学习知识，写作业，听老师上课。那另外呢，很多的教学软件，比如我们使用的 Zoom， 它都有课程的录播功能。那有时候同学因为错过了学习时间，还可以调出课程录播的内容，然后重新选择合适的时间学习，这也增加了学习时间的灵活性。第3点是丰富了教师的教学方式。那传统的教学方式都是在教室里面对面，而如今呢，老师是需要学习信息技术的。这次开展的网络教学是对老师信息技术应用水平的一次很大的考验。那在亚院，我们在线直播教学方式的选择，也促使老师努力学习使用教学软件，共同学习、共同交流，并且在短时间内熟练掌握。这种全新的教学模式不仅促进了老师的快速学习和成长，也丰富了教学方式，提高了教学技能。接下来谈线上教学存在的问题。第一个问题是，师生互动明显的减少。因为线上的课堂，如果打开全班学生的话筒，教室就会有各种杂音。那有很多老师会关闭学生的麦克，一旦关闭，整个线上就只留下老师一个人的声音，除非学生主动提问，否则很难有课堂交流的自然互动。那对于中文教学来说，线上授课时，老师也无法充分借助身体语言辅助表达，所以常常形成这样的局面：老师一个人在讲，全班学生集体在听，所以老师讲的再精彩，学生听久了、看久了也会感觉到很疲倦，影响教学效果。第二呢是课堂学习氛围的形成受到影响。线上教学，老师无法在课堂上看到每一位同学，无法感受到每一位学生的学习状态，更无法开展现场问答或者小组讨论。师生之间、学生与学生之间的互动交流 也远没有现场教学的效果好。这样的课堂很难形成教室里那种热烈的学习氛围。第三是对学生的管控难度加大。因为不是现场教学，所以不能够面对面发现问题。所以老师在授课的过程当中很难约束学生。那如果有的同学自我约束能力比较差，听课的时候注意力不集中，出现打电话、发信息，甚至玩游戏，甚至中途离开课堂的现象，老师都没有办法及时发现和制止，这在一定程度上会影响教学效果。另外呢，考试和作业的管控难度也比较大，所以这些都对学生的自我管理能力呢提出很高的要求。第四点呢是，长时间使用电脑会影响身体健康。有的同学使用手机听课，那耳机佩戴时间太长会会头晕。如果看电脑时间久了，也会影响视力。对老师来说也是，提出了一个很高的要求，要在电脑前，不仅要在电脑前上课，还要做 PPT， 还要通过电脑来收作业、批作业、发作业，以及登录成绩、填写教学记录等等。那这一天做下来呢，对颈椎、腰椎都会形成不良影响。那这是线上教学存在的几个问题。那针对存在的这几个问题，我采取了几条应对的方法。第一条呢是精心的备课，最大化的利用 PPT 和白板的功能。我们会发现，无论是 Zoom 还是 Like Meeting，它的 PPT 的功能都是很强大的。所以在上课之前呢，做 PPT 要充分的准备。比如给2年级上课，很多单词在讲解的时候很麻烦。有一篇课文叫《今天我下厨》，那提到了很多做菜用的料。不光是葱、姜、蒜，另外呢，葱切成不同的形状，有葱段、葱花蒜片、蒜末。做的时候，有这个飞镖游戏我们看这个说风儿在院子里拿树叶玩飞镖游戏。那提到飞镖这个词，那我们同学不知道，我只要用图片展示一下就可以。那提到这一句话，风在院子里的状态，那我找几张图片你像这个一张 PPT， 我是用3张图片组成的。那这样的话，能够有效的帮助大家来理解诗歌的内容，在课堂上会节约很多的时间，同时也能够帮助同学深入的理解这个作品。那 PPT 功能除了讲课的内容可以播放之外呢，我们还可以把学生的学习成绩成绩单也可以截图通过粘贴到 PPT 上，通过 PPT 上课传达给同学。所以呢，这个 PPT 它可以装下的内容是很多的，我们应该是充分的利用它。另外呢，Zoom 当中这个白板功能也很好用我们在汉字课上，我们就可以利用白板向大家清晰地展现出这个字书写的基本规则是什么样子的。那这是一个错误的写法，那我在这里呢一笔一画写出来，大家就可以看得很清楚，就能理解怎样写是正确的，怎样写是错误的。如果离开白板只用 PPT， 就很难观察到它具体的区别在哪里。好， 这是第一点。第二点呢，是我在课堂上是开放发言的，鼓励大家课堂积极互动。在课堂上，我给全班同学的麦都是打开的啊，允许每个同学随时遇到问题提出来。那同时呢，我一边讲也会问啊，听懂了吗？可以听明白吗？我能听到很多声音说听明白了，听懂了。那这时候呢，对于课堂的这种交流和互动，对老师上课是有帮助的。同时呢，我们课堂上也会大家一起来读课文啊，都打开麦。像儿童文学课，我们可以一起朗读儿童诗歌。像写作课，我们可以全班一起读课文。那在共同读课文的过程中，我们不仅能听到自己的声音，还能听到同学和老师的声音。那仿佛又回到了教室里，能够感受到课堂的学习氛围，也能感受到校园文化。第三点，注重交流，加强课程管理。这个课程管理呢，是包括课堂管理和课下的管理。课堂上，我会要求大家按照亚院的考勤纪律按时上课，也会向大家说明，如果不来要请假。那所以同学呢，整体上是比较自觉的，上课也能保持教室里保持安静的环境。如果谁的麦，谁周围环境比较吵，他会把麦关掉。啊，我们的同学迟到了，他会主动的跟老师道歉，对不起，我迟到了啊，私自发信息。那下一次呢，他就会早一点来。另外呢，在作业和考试当中，为了避免大家互相抄袭的情况，我在出考试题或者出作业题的时候，我经常会加入一些主观性的题。那像这样的题，一首从来没有学过的诗歌，同学都能读得懂，我拿到这里来考试，大家呢让他结合诗歌的内容谈谈它有哪些特点。那同学呢就只能各自按照自己的理解去回答问题啊，这样可以有效的避免抄袭。这也是我对课程管理的一项内容。第四点呢，针对久坐会影响身体健康的问题，那我提出的办法就是平时加强锻炼。我们在室内也可以做有些锻炼可以做，像瑜伽啊，像中国的8段锦。另外呢，平时出门也可以尽量的多走路啊，能走路不开车，去超市买东西或者是去取快递呢，就尽量步行走，锻炼身体，保持愉快的身心状态，尽量愉快的投入到工作和学习当中。好，最后呢，我想提出几点建议。那对老师来说，疫情期间虽然线上授课这是一种不得不选的一种选择，但是实际上在疫情发生之前，线上课程呢就已经成为一种重要的辅助形式所以呢，在这个阶段里，我们应该主动的学习和研究各种教学软件，精心的准备 PPT， 充分利用线上资源，提高教学效果。对家庭在疫情期成为孩子们学习的重要的场所，所以建议每个家庭都重视和关注孩子的学习，努力创建安静、优良、健康的居家学习环境。第四是对学校在疫情期在组织教学方面付出了更大的努力。虽然如此，我们在疫情期里还应该更加关注学生的心理健康，适当组织学生参与线上活动，增进彼此交流。那像今天亚院组织的这场线上的教学论坛活动，就是一次很好的交流。在此， 也感谢亚院领导和老师为组织此次活动的辛勤付出非常感谢总之，线上教学要取得良好的教学效果，只依靠某一个方面的努力是不够的。学校的精心组织、教师的认真负责、学生的勤勉自律，以及家长的全力支持，这4个因素缺一不可。所以，让我们一起努力，共同完成教学任务，陪伴学生健康成长。以上是我对线上教学感受的分享，感谢大家倾听，谢谢，谢谢大家。Terima kasih. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Xu. Are you still there with us? 徐老师，你在吗？
一直在
一直在谢谢。Thank you, Miss Xu, for the presentation and the preparation. To know that there will be connection problems, so she sent us the video and the record of her voice, so that we can still hear her presentation well. So now I'm going to do the little summarize for Miss Xu presentation. Miss Xu is trying to share her online teaching experience during the pandemic. She starts with the discussion about the advantages of online teaching. First, online teaching breaks through regional restriction, as students and teachers only need a laptop or mobile to carry out the learning activities. Second, online teaching enriches students' learning style, as we can use a lot of application in conducting teaching, and even some application provide records in which students may be able to replay the teaching that they missed at any time. Third, online teaching stimulates teachers to learn more and enrich the teaching methods. That's about the advantages of online teaching. And Ms. Xu said there are also some problems occur during the online teaching. First, online teaching decreases the interaction between students and teachers, and the lack of interaction may cause students feel bored and affect the teaching result. Second, it's a lot of difficult for teachers to create a warm and active classroom atmosphere. Third, online teaching makes teachers difficult to control and observe student learning behavior. And last, using computer and mobile for a long duration may affect teachers and student health. So how to cope with these problems? Ms. Xu said, teachers should well-prepared lesson and fully make use of PowerPoint slide and whiteboard on the application. And the second, students are encouraged to deliver any question or statements during the online learning to stimulate more interaction. Third, emphasize on communication and class organizing. And last, teacher or students should do more exercise and reduce the frequency of using computer and mobile except for working. So in a conclusion, Ms. Xu said that education is a conventional project in which it requires the collaboration from teachers, students, school, and families. During the pandemic, these 4 elements should play their roles more intensively to reach the education goals. Like teachers should actively improve their teaching ability, students should improve their self-management ability, be more disciplined, initiative, and proactive in learning, so that we can reach the aim of keep learning even there is no class. Third, family should support the online learning project by providing a comfortable and quiet learning environment. And finally, school should strictly require students to attend the online class and examination. School may also create online activities among students and teachers, such as today's international webinar. Well, these are all like a little summarize of Ms. Xu presentation. We'll send the webinar materials later. after the webinar. So thank you for staying here with us. And now, ladies and gentlemen, all of our 4 speakers have delivered their presentation. Thank you very much, Prof. Berlin, Prof. Kaunder, and Ms. Xu for the sharing. And now we are going to start the Q&A session, in which each speaker may pick up 1 or 2 questions from the forum. There are many questions for the 3 speakers, so let us give the first chance to Prof. Kaunder. Just now already answered 1 question, so maybe we can continue here, Prof. Kaunder.
Yes, please.
Yes, maybe you can see the question from the Q&A.
I have seen it.
Yes, for the Q&A box, maybe you can choose one, the typical one, to, so right. That 1 question. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much for your active participations. And I've noted down some important questions from Said Sandi Sukandi and Amelia Sitopu, Sriati Usman, and Sofia Lubis. First of all, we talked about.
Yes, Prof, you unmute your voice. I'm sorry, Prof. Kaunder. Please unmute your microphone.
Okay, right.
Prof. Kaunder, you please unmute the microphone.
Okay, no. Can you hear me?
Yes, now okay.
Right, good. First of all, I do appreciate the active participations of the audience, and I noted down some important questions from Said Sande Sokardi and Amelia Sitepu, Sriati Usman, Sofia Lubis, Yenny Chen. And one of the most important part here, when you talk about the willingness of the learners or students to attend the class, but
I'm sorry, Prof. Kaunder, maybe this one you choose, which one you choose, so I can read out the question so the participant knows
I choose
well.
Syed Sandi Sukandi.
All right, so the question for Mr. Syed Sandi Sukandi. So yeah. They are asking, can we consider students' technical difficulties in assessing our online classroom as part of assessment? I have a student who cannot attend my class since March 2020, in the middle of even semester in this academic year, but she really wants to join while she has a problem in technology. What would be our ethical consideration? Okay. Yes.
Good. Thank you. Pak Swait Sandi, I don't know if you can listen to me, but I'm happy to answer your questions. We have faced almost all of the same problems during the online classroom here. So what is important is that we will know if the students are motivated to join their class, since they are able to contact you. But the first question is, how do you know that this student is really wanted to join your class? Of course, there must be communication. So first you have to see what kind of tools or what equipment is used by the learners, whether is using WhatsApp, probably SMS or email or whatever. So what is important for you to consider is that if he or if your students is able to contact you, then you have to be able also to communicate with your students. So then to show that you respect whatever the students have done to communicate with you, then please provide the students with instructional materials, with assignment through the tools that she is or he is asking you, or that she shows that he or she is interested or willing to join your class. So I think that's the best way to do it. So if you know that they are very interested or willing to join your class, then how do you know it? That's the very first questions that you have to answer. And I think this also will be the same case with Sophia Luby's questions in relation to the tools. The tools, if the tools is easily accessed, or whatever the tools that can be used to access learners, or learners can access you as teachers or lecturers, then use that tools to communicate or to provide learners with instructional materials and assessment or assignment, sorry, assignment. Thank you, Ibu Yeni. Yes, thank you.
Yes, Ibu Yeni. Yes. Yes, Bu Yeni. I'm listening to you. I cannot hear you, Ibu Yeni. I still cannot hear. Unmute your microphone.
Oh, okay. Sorry. There are two monitors here. I'm sorry. Okay, Prof. Darlene, so there are many questions here. So you want to pick the question yourself?
Well, I've read all the questions in the chat box and I found three questions. The first is from Amelia Stipu, the same thing, I think, but a little bit different as addressed to Prof. Konder. Amelia Stipu, I will answer it first. Could you please read it?
So which one? The Amelia? Okay, for Miss Amelia Sitopu, she is asking Prof. Darlene that, is there any way the teacher can use to measure students' behavior engagement, especially about their attendance, since, as Mr. Konder said earlier, during the online learning, there are some internet problems which makes the student feel difficult to attend and join the class, even though they are willing to join. Is the attendance of the class only way? Is that the only way we can see their engagement? Yeah. Okay, the time is yours, Prof. Darlene.
Okay, but let me make it sure. Are you still there, Amelia? Okay, hopefully she's still there. Okay, well, taking attendance list in online learning, I think is very important. Just to let them know that we pay attention to their attendance. When we find some students or one or two students absent, let her friends know that this student is absent and ask her friends or his friend to tell her or him that he is absent, and let her friends ask her to contact you as a teacher. So the message is, we would like to show the students that we care their attendance. So in the case of internet issues, internet connections issues, I think we have nothing to do. We cannot do anything for that problem. It is out of our capacity. But again, we can make something in replace of getting the attendance, because we cannot blame her or him for being absent. But as I told you in my presentations, that behavioral engagement is only one part to cognitive cognitive engagement. So we replace the behavioral engagement into the cognitive engagement. So we need to ask the assignment. We need to ask the assignment. We need to get the assignment from the people who cannot join because of the internet connections. And when we get the assignment, we need to, if we have the tools, we need to turn it in, the assignment, just to make sure that this is not a copy paste, it is not a plagiarism. So by doing so, in the futures, in the next sessions, I think these students will attend the class and will tune the engagement to what is expected by the lecturers. I think that's my answers to Amelia for that question, situation. And the second question is from anonymous attendant, attendee.
Okay, it's the anonymous attendees is asking how to solve the problems of less controlling behavioral engagement in online teaching.
Yes, I agree with him that it is less controlling behavior in online. Just like I saw you in my presentations face-to-face, we have some tools, we have some ways of controlling the student engagement that we lose when we turn into online learning. So in this case, I think, and this is what I practice, I try to scroll down and up the participants, what I say, the participant, we can scroll down and up and watch the face. By looking at the face in the Zoom, for example, we can guess whether these students engage or not engage. If you are not sure that these students engage or not engage, you can nominate, you can ask the name and ask questions to these students. So when he failed to answer the questions, we know that he's not engaged. And I think we need to give some advice so that he should pay attention, even though there is a long distance between you and me, I can still pay attention whether you are engaged or not engaged. I think that's I can do to answer these questions by the anonymous attendee.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Berlin.
One more question,
yeah.
Yes, that is from Rita Hartati.
Rita Hartati.
Yes.
So Miss Rita is asking how to teach English-based content to improve student critical thinking. An example of activities and rubrics to evaluate students' character as one of the assessment in teaching. Okay. Yes, Professor.
Is it Rita Hartati?
Yes, it's Rita Hartati, right?
Because I think Rita Hartati asking the questions of critical thinking.
Yes. She's asking about critical thinking, correct? She's asking about how to teach English-based content to improve student critical thinking.
Well, what about like journal review? Didn't she mention it there? I'm afraid that you read the different name.
Okay.
Because there's a long statement there. In the first paragraph, make some praise.
You mean Miss Dian Azura Novita?
No, Rita Hartati. Okay. Yes. Okay. It's not
maybe. Okay. If you want to, because here Miss Dian is also talking about the critical thinking through this.
Rita Hartati say that it is amazing materials that you presented, but the question is at the last paragraph. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I just note the new one because this is she type again. I have give the answer of my question from your presentation related to critical thinking and behavioral engagement. Another question for you, how do we design materials to use high order thinking activities related to our task, critical book review, and critical journal review more than just identifying the journals and finding the weakness and strengths of the textbook? Okay,
let's make
the
it
question.
Okay, let's make it sure. Are you still there, Rita Hartati? Because she's my colleague from Universitas Negeri Medan. So let me make it for sure. I'm not talking about critical thinking, but I'm talking about challenging task. Challenging task also needs something like high order thinking, but not really critical thinking. Challenging task is EEI plus 1. So the task will be challenging if it is not too difficult. It is not too difficult. If it is too difficult, it will be frustrating. It is not too easy. If it is too easy, there is no challenging. So the teacher should be able to predict what question is one step above the eye, one step about the presence ability. So if you make it higher, like 7 or 8 above the presence ability, that will be frustrating. And if you make it lower than his competence, his ability, that will be too easy and it will cause boredom. So I'm talking about challenging in order to get engagement. But high order thinking can be understood from 3 different perspectives. High order thinking can be understood as transfer, that is learner. Learned situation is transferred to a new situation. So what we learned before is transferred to a new situation in order to understand the new situation better. And the second perspective of the high order thinking is critical thinking. Critical thinking is making something reasonable, making something like wise judgment in order to decide if something to do or not to do. And the third aspect of high order thinking is problem solving. So you have the problem and you need to solve the problem. Solving the problems cannot be done just by memorizing things, because there is no problem which is similar to other problems before. So high order thinking in UNIMED assignment should be designed by, this is something like a critical book report, by asking the students to find what is the purpose of the book, what is the problem of the book, how did he answer the problem, and what you think about the way they answer the problem, and so on. So you don't just assign the students by saying that review the book and find the weakness and find the weakness and the strength. If you just say that kind of thing, that will not engage them in terms of critical thinking, in terms of transfer, and also in terms of problem solving. I think that's my question, Ibu Rita. Thank you, Ibu Dewi, Ibu Yemi.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Berlin, for answering the question. I think it's clear enough. Yeah, for Miss Rita, still there. Yeah, I think still there, still here with us. So next, for the last speakers, Miss Xu Shuxian, are you still there?
我在。
徐老师在吗？
在。
哎，徐老师，你可以看一下那个学生问的问题吗？你可以看到吗？喂，听到我们的声音吗？There is one student asked Miss Su Xian about how to do the examination on Zoom. 徐老师，有学生问，在 Zoom 怎样进行考试？徐老师在吗？Maybe Miss Xu, you may type your answer in the chat box. Yes, Miss Xu, are you there?
我把试卷分享。
那个徐老师可以把那个学生的答案，有一个叫做 Martono 的，叫 Martono，他问怎样在 Zoom 进行考试。我们没有听到你的声音，可不可以就在用打字回答？可能可以用打字回答。Yeah, you can type your answer in the chat box. Yeah, due to the internet problem, I think okay, Miss Xu said that she already replied. She already replied.
试卷在分享。
Oh, she is sharing the text. 试卷在 Zoom 分享。好，我们在等。Okay, we are waiting for Miss Xu's screen sharing.
我在。点击分享就可以分享 Word 文档。
So Miss Xu is trying to share the form of test examination that she gave on online learning. Yes. We are still waiting here. Okay, while waiting for Miss Xu, maybe there are still some questions that haven't been answered for Prof. Berlin or Prof. Kander. Maybe you would like to add some answer.
Yes, Prof. Unmute your microphone, Prof.
Yeah, unmute the microphone for Prof. Kander.
Okay, can you listen to me now? Can you listen to my voice?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
please.
Good. I think one more question related to the young learners asked by Yeni Chen.
Yeni Chen. Yeni Chen. Where is it?
So it's asking about younger learners in online learning, online classroom.
Younger learning. Yeni Chen. Okay, yeah. She is asking about how do we start online learning with younger students such as 6 or 7 years old kid. Wow, this is a challenge.
I think the question is very interesting because the situation in this era, all learning are almost online, not only higher education level, which has been familiar with ICTs, but also primary school learners or even kindergarten probably are not having yet face-to-face or time to go to school. So what is important, I think, when we talk about the teaching online in the younger learners, first of all, we have to find out to understand the characters of the young learners. When they are young, probably first you have to see that they are likely to have a game, they like to have pictures and so on. So probably for younger learners, we need a more creative, innovative teachers. So what is needed is the teachers should be able to create whatever probably can be seen directly by the learners in their environment. As what has been stated in the instructional objective for younger learners, that they have to be able to name things around them, for example. So why don't we try to create materials based on the pictures, and then they name the pictures, then they repeat it, and then they pronounce it, and then probably we don't need to ask them to formulate sentence or simple sentence, but what is important that they can name the things, they can pronounce the things, that probably they can spell the name of the things, because I think in the early childhood or in the beginning of the thing, teaching at the primary school, the main objective is that. I think that's it. So we try to start the teaching by introducing pictures and games to the students because they are happy with that. Thank you, Ms. Jenny. I think you should unmute your voice, Henny. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prof. Kander. And Miss Yenny Chen, are you still there? Yeah, I think she's still there. And the answer of Prof. Kander, maybe we can combine it with the answer for the material of Miss Shui said just now. There are 4 elements needed in online teaching. So for the younger kids, maybe you'll need the parents' support here. So not only the teacher and student, but also parents there taking part to make the students more focused on the online class. Yeah. This is just some of the suggestion. Okay, maybe for properly, is there any question that you would like to answer again properly?
Well, it's difficult to, okay. Well, I think no more questions because I think I have already answered questions raised by Dian Azura Novita. Could you please read it, Bu Yeni?
Okay, Azura Novita. Okay, I'll find it first. Azura.
Dian Azura Novita.
Oh, Dian. Okay. Dian Azura. Okay, it's the last question, I guess. Wait. Okay, this is the question from Miss Dian Azura Novita. Students have to think creatively and critically. My question is how to evaluate the students that they have had an ability in critical thinking through this online teaching and learning process. Okay, yes, Prof?
Well, I think assessing critical thinking through offline and through online does not make any difference. It depends on the platforms you use. If you use the Zoom, I think Zoom is provided with something like chat. You can send your work and I can review the work by review features in the computers. But the problem is we are not very sure whether all the teachers are able to write a test measuring critical thinking or measuring creative thinking. So in order to be able to write a test measuring critical thinking or creative thinking, I think the teachers should learn comprehensively what is meant by creative thinking, what is meant by critical thinking. By having some indicators, by having some concept of this construct, you can design a test. And when you have already designed a test, the components, the indicators, the aspects of the construct is taken to be the standard of achieving the kinds of critical thinking. Let's say, for example, according to the theory, critical thinking should be able to do A, B, C, D. So you can create a test to measure A, B, C, D. And when you correct the students' answers, you just simply count how many of the indicators achieve done correctly by the students or by your students. That's the way how to measure critical thinking. I think it's the same for every kinds of assessment. We need to define first what we are going to assess. After having the definitions, after having the characteristic, we can develop the test items based on this characteristic. And that will be again as the standard of achieving the construct or not. I think that's my answer to Ibu Diana Zura. She happened to be my students.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Berlin. For the answer, I think we have answered all the question and only left Miss Susian. Just now she told me that she told our panelists, the other panelists, that she already answered the question. What she means like how to do exam during using the Zoom, but she suggests more that the examination question is sent privately to their email. So each student can read their own examination, not sharing with others. So they can answer privately and send back to Miss Xu. And just now in her presentation, I also heard that usually teachers should give a personal or subjective question to the students so the students can elaborate more about their thought, their personal thoughts. So the question of the examination should not be the objective question, but it's more personal question. It's like not personal question, but it's a subjective question, so the student can elaborate more of their own thoughts. So everyone will have the different explanation about the subject or the question. That's maybe what Miss Xu want to say just now to the Martono. Okay, I think the time is now 12:15 West Indonesia time, and ladies and gentlemen, it has been great being with you all for the 3-hour webinar. And now we have come to the end of our session. Thank you all participants for your very enthusiastic attention. We would like to convey the utmost gratitude to our speakers, Dr. Yonglin Gorge, Professor Berlin, Dr. Berlin Sibarani, MPD, Professor Kandar Manurun, DEA, PhD, and Ms. Xu Suxian, MA. Thank you very much for your time, effort, and presentation on this webinar. We really hope that today's discussion will inspire us to do better in online learning class, and of course, keep up the progress of our study. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we would like to inform that the e-certificate will be emailed to you within 24 hours, and the link of the webinar materials will also be emailed to you soon after the webinar is ended. Again, thank you very much for joining us, and we apologize to the Zoom technical issue that make us a little bit late to start just now. And last but not least, please allow me to end the webinar. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. 再见，拜拜。
Bye.